Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College of the University of Georgia, this is Grady Newsource.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Grady Newsource. I'm Sailor Betts. Population continues to grow throughout Northeast Georgia, and that affects these counties both socially and economically. During tonight's panel discussion, we hope to navigate the balance between civilian concerns and economic benefits. I'm now joined by government representatives throughout Northeast Georgia, and we'll start with Athens-Clarke County, Mark Bichuk, the Comprehensive Planning Coordinator for Athens-Clarke County. Then we have David Maynard, the Mayor of the City of Winder, a separate government entity but within Barrow County. Then we have Ed Hooper, the Public Relations Officer for Jackson County Schools, Amory Hardin, the Post 3 Commissioner for Oconee County, and Terry Chandler, the District 2 Commissioner for Madison County. Now, Mark, starting with you in Athens-Clarke County, in terms of population growth, what is the primary issue that you've seen arisen from that population growth, and how are you planning on resolving that?
Yeah, so in the planning department, it's a lot about balance for us. We're trying to navigate the people that are here and the people that are coming. So the people that are here have a lot of vested interest in the existing city as it was a lot of times, as well as some of the things that they want to see, which are generally brought on by population growth. Additionally, we're constrained a lot by our infrastructure. So in the planning department and part of our growth concept map, we're really looking at that infrastructure, but because to put people in the city, we need that sewer and that water capacity.
All right, and then Ed, moving to you with Jackson County, with population growth, what's the primary issue that you've seen and how do you plan on addressing that?
Yeah, so I think when we say it's an issue in terms of the school system, we kind of look at it as an opportunity, an opportunity that we get to educate more students, get to provide more opportunities for them through extracurriculars, whether that's performing arts or clubs or organizations and athletics. So we're the fastest growing school system in the state of Georgia, so a lot of people coming in very quickly. To keep our school sizes and our class sizes where we want them. We just built a brand new middle school, which is next to the new Jackson County High School. So that opened in August, and we have a new elementary school that's opening next August, which is Heroes Elementary. So continuing to build those beautiful facilities, keep our class sizes where they are good, where students can get that one-to-one, hands-on experience with the teachers in those close-knit settings, and really just continue to be able to provide those opportunities for our students.
All right, Terry, turning to you with Madison County, what is the primary issue you've seen from population growth, and how do you plan on resolving that?
People tell us always they predominantly come to Madison County because they want rural character, without realizing that every new citizen that moves into the county takes a little wedge of that rural character away. So it's a real challenge there. So how do you maintain the status that people come for? So change is tough for all of us. So trying to come up with the best solutions. And one of the challenges that we have, one of the short-term challenges that we as leaders all face is the challenge of focusing our attention on decisions 25 years and 50 years out. If we're making all our decisions based on the problems that are today, then we are already 25 years behind. And that's, for those of us in rural areas, I think that pretty much characterizes where we are. We have made those decisions just from day to day for decades. And now because we have not been thinking 25 and 50 years out, we are behind.
Mark, I'll turn it to you with Athens-Clarke County, a higher population and lots more infrastructure in place. What advice would you give for a government official that's starting to build that infrastructure as population is nearing numbers similar to Athens-Clarke County?
Yeah, so in the planning world, I think it's really important to have the plan follow the infrastructure. A lot of times in the past, we've had the people move and then the infrastructure have to catch up. There's a term in the planning world called the growth Ponzi scheme, which is all about paying for past debt by continuing to expand, which just is a way to really drive governments towards insolvency, unfortunately. Looking at density, that's looking at transportation in town, as opposed to just having everybody drive to every location that they're going to for every single trip in a single occupancy vehicle, which is the most common way that people get around in the United States. So in Athens-Clarke County, that's what we're looking at in order to keep ourselves on the right side of the balance sheet.
I could add a little bit to your question too, I think it takes good, strong communication from all the different parties and that's going on. So in Jackson County, we have several different city municipalities, and I think as you're growing, the communication between the city municipalities, the county, the school system, that is super critical. It's been a key factor for us. We partnered with our local county and our local city municipalities to understand how much growth is taking place in Jackson County, how many homes and multifamily dwellings are under construction right now, to help better prepare how many students are coming our way, whether that's next year or in 5 years when a newborn hits kindergarten, to better have an idea of what facilities are going to need to be built. So a big part is when you're growing as fast as we all are, is communicating.
All right, thank you both for that additional insight. After the break, we'll move to civilian communication and some of the main concerns that they've shared with regard to population growth in their counties. Stay tuned.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand, trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Welcome back to the special edition of Grady Newsource. We turn now to civilian concerns with population growth in these counties. Mark, I'll start with you in Athens-Clarke County. What are the primary civilian concerns you've received as a government official? And I'll also open it up to the rest of our officials on this panel. If you hear something that is similar to concerns you've received, feel free to chime in with that kind of strategic plan that you've used to address those concerns.
Yeah, Athens-Clarke County is very diverse. We hear the whole entire spectrum. We just finished a month and a half of public input. Everything from don't let another single person in here to we need, skyscrapers. It's a bit tough to know in Athens-Clarke County.
And then David, turning it to you with Barrow County and specifically the city of Winder. What are the primary civilian concerns you've received as a government official? And same thing applies for input from our fellow panelists.
So we get the comments from our citizens, kind of like Mark said, they don't want anybody else moving in. They moved here to be in the country, they think, and they want it to stay that way, which, that does kind of step on the property rights. As Mark was talking, I was thinking, a mistake, maybe not made a long time ago, I think we would all benefit if this population growth were concentrated into cities and the rural areas were left rural. If the cities would have just continued to grow out, if we hadn't started putting subdivisions out in the middle of farmland. Right. And that's real expensive to do. I mean, people come here, they want to be out there in the country, but they want the services just like they're in a city. So it doesn't matter if it's water or sewer, or police or fire, or any service the government provides, the more densely the area is populated, the cheaper it is per person to provide it.
And I know just recently a new 27-lot subdivision got approved for input in Barrow County. For constituents that are in Barrow County, if there was one right in front of you during this panel today saying no more subdivisions, what would you say to them?
You know, as long as we live in a place where you have the right to own a house and to sell that house and to buy another one, I can't stop it. I can influence it, I can put conditions on it, I can't stop it, and I don't want to stop it. You know, I want to be able to buy and sell and own property. I think that's a great right in this country.
Ed, moving to you with Jackson County, as a government official, what are the primary concerns that you've received from civilians?
From the school system perspective, you know, one of the things we hear is obviously we're growing, so what are our plans for that? We're going through our current strategic planning process right now, and so we're putting a heavy emphasis on community engagement. So we held a community engagement meeting earlier this semester to try to get input on what our citizens who have been here for a while and those who are moving in, what they want our school system to look like. And so, you know, I think call it a concern. I think they obviously want to know, you know, what schools are doing to help, you know, work with the county officials, city officials for traffic. So we're working, you know, with our local agencies. Again, I think we're lucky we have a good relationship with those city and county leaders to try to find a resolution of when our schools start and end, and what, you know, what those roads are going to look like. And so I think our community just wants to know what the direction of the school system is, and let them have that you know, input and that feedback of what our next 5 years is going to look like. And so we're going through that process right now and trying to engage our community as much as possible. You know, the next 5 years for Jackson County Schools is going to be, you know, kind of what it's been the last couple of years. It's people moving in, growth, you know, building new schools, continuing to achieve academic and extracurricular excellence. So we're trying to build that into our strategic plan.
All right, Amory, moving to you with population growth in Oconee County. As a government official, what are the primary concerns that you receive from civilians in your county?
Well, it's really interesting to say that we recently, well, in the last year, we had a rezone to come before the Board of Commissioners, and the neighborhood who was opposing it came up with a motto of "Don't Gwinnett our Oconee," and I thought that was pretty neat because it says a lot of things about people's sentiments. They move here from Gwinnett, but yet they don't want the county to change. And I agree with them. I don't want the county to change either. So one of the things that we have to go through an educational process with people who move in the community, that we've been working on this for decades. It's not like they just came here today and we got all these problems. They don't take the time to really look at what has gone on before they arrived here. And one of the key components of that is our comprehensive planning process. Each community that's represented here at this table and all across the state are required to do comprehensive planning. And we do a big plan every 10 years with an update every 5 years. So I think it's very important that we, as a city and county officials, to listen to what the tone is. Whether they want skyscrapers or nobody else to move in, it has to be a happy medium. But I think comprehensive planning is a key component of helping our citizens have an input in the future.
All right, with that insight in mind, Terry, turning it to you now with Madison County, what are the primary concerns that you've received from civilians in terms of population growth?
It's been really interesting to me to hear that how much of what we hear is identical to what each of y'all have stated. And even though that Clark County to me is very urban, they hear the same things that we hear. So that was a little striking to me. But in addition to that, concern of where the funds are going to come from, achieving a balance of income for the county rather than dependence on ad valorem taxation, particularly for the larger property owners. It's really huge. So how to achieve that balance? If you look at Madison County financially, our probably Walmart in Athens creates more sales tax revenue than all of Madison County, and we're having quite a challenge there. So how do you encourage more commercial development and more industrial development to offset some of that demand for ad valorem tax?
Thank you all for that insight. After the break, we'll take a closer look at the economic benefits of population growth within each of these counties. You're watching Grady Newsource, live at 5.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew a girl so smart, so responsible, she must be a keeper.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. For her to see her father celebrate his graduation, it's the best feeling in the world. I can't lie and say it was easy. But sometimes you just have to stop everything and take it in. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Welcome back to Grady Newsource. We take a look now at the economic benefits of population growth with our panel guests. Mark, starting again with you in Athens-Clarke County, what are the main economic benefits you've seen from population growth in the county?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the amenities that people love. So I think Athens-Clarke County is fairly well known for restaurant scene and some of the activities also driven by this university, which has a huge impact on Athens-Clarke County and the region. But more importantly, lately, I think Athens has been turning into a bit more of a mid-sized city as opposed to a college town or just a small town that a lot of people think it really is, which it may have been a few decades ago, but hasn't been for a little while. So we've been really experiencing a lot of growth in some biotechnology. That's a big focus of our economic development team, is to push for that. We've got a new employer coming into town in 2024 that's looking to bring 1,800 jobs, very well-paying jobs. I believe they're coordinating with Athens Tech and with the University of Georgia to bring some skills and some of those factors to Athens-Clarke County, which is wonderful. I think we're really taking that step from just being the University of Georgia with surrounding bedrooms to a city that could be self-sufficient.
All right, with that in mind, David, moving to you with Barrow County and specifically Winder, what are some of the economic benefits you've seen from that population growth?
As we talked about before, it makes the delivery of city-type services cheaper per person. I mean, it makes it, I think the denser population makes it more affordable to provide those services.
Then, Ed, moving to you with Jackson County, what are some of the economic benefits you've seen from that growth in Jackson County?
Well, I mean, certainly, more people come in, they want to spend their money in your county, so our SPLOST revenue is up, which allowed our Board of Education to lower the school millage rate. It's the lowest school millage rate we've had in over 20 years, which is, you hear them talking about property taxes. That's obviously something that an economy that people are passionate about. So, and then obviously when you have growth and more people come into your schools, that means more teachers, more employees, more staff, so creating more jobs within our school system. That obviously allows more opportunities for people to not just come live here, but also work in that community.
All right, Amory, moving to you with Oconee County, what are some of the economic benefits you've seen from the population growth in the county?
So I would put it in a nice box and put a red ribbon on it and call it quality of life. I think the economic benefits that we've had as a result of the growth is that now people are able to have jobs without having to necessarily commute outside the area. We also have more opportunities for restaurants and retail to make it more convenient.
All right, Terry, moving to you with Madison County. What are some of the economic benefits you've seen from population growth?
That's a good question, probably a little more challenging question for us. And maybe I'll take a little different perspective from our other board members here. One of the challenges we face in Madison County, particularly having the opportunities that are available in Clark County, the habit over the last decades is, if you have somewhere you want to go or something you want to do or something you want to get, you go to Athens, Clark to get it. Now at Banks Crossing, you have an opportunity in Jackson County as well. So how do you recapture some of those sales tax dollars into Madison County? So again, if we're just saying just growth for the sake of growth, then I couldn't tell you that there's an positive economic impact to that. Any employer to come in that's going to be hiring 2,000 or 3,000 people, that's representative of a population increase, and that would Madison County might as well change its name.
Amory, you mentioned quality of life with the potential for new businesses and restaurants in Oconee County. Mark, with regard to the restaurant scene in Athens that you mentioned earlier, with the infrastructure that made that restaurant scene possible, what are some of the strengths of that planning that you would hope to share for counties who are looking forward to experiencing that?
Because brand new development, planned development is costly. So it's hard to tell people to plan for some of those things. I think Athens was fortunate by having some of the infrastructure. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. So it's kind of tough to plan for and be able to afford it at the same time, which is getting harder and harder to do throughout the state of Georgia with this population growth and the economic pressures. But leaving some of those gaps is the easiest way to get some of that creativity and some of that kind of funkiness that I think Athens sort of brought, and unfortunately might sort of be losing right now.
All right, thank you all for that insight into how population growth affects each of your counties differently in terms of economic benefits. After the break, we'll have some time for each of our panel guests to reflect on what they've learned during their time at this panel. You're watching Grady Newsource live at 5.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please. I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Welcome back to this special edition of Grady Newsource. We've had some time to hear from each of you with regard to population growth. Each county has a different starting population and a different rate of growth. In terms of this open discussion that we've had here, what's one thing that you've learned from either one person specifically or in general during your time at this panel?
So I'm really happy to hear some of our other representatives from our adjacent communities and counties here have a lot of the same concerns Athens Clarke County is. I think we often feel or hear that Athens Clarke County is different than many of the surrounding communities, and I think it is obviously more urban, has some differences. But I think trying to find those ways to get together and working together, seen as how we realize that this is a regional issue, and have a lot of the same and similar concerns would be a wonderful step.
Well, I'm drawing a blank other than we are all experiencing the same sort of problems and issues with the growth. We're struggling to maintain our historical identity and yet welcome new people in and grow and provide the services that come with that.
I think it's a great reminder, obviously different perspective being from the school system, but I think everybody up here is in the people business. So, you're been tasked to maintain and to lead people and to plan. And so I think that's, it's a good reminder that everybody up here is doing what's in the best interest of their citizens and, the people that live in their communities. So,
Sailor, I think the one thing that I hear from a fellow panelist up here is the comment about solving issues on a regional basis. But I think that if we can address issues on a regional basis, because it does affect all of our communities, that's one thing I've learned today, is if we can work together, it might make our task a little easier.
It's encouraging for me to know that our problems in Madison County are not unique, that we share them, and I think that just creates an open door for us to work together to solve these kind of problems. It's encouraging also to recognize that there are communities close by that have done a good job or are doing a good job in planning long range and the positive benefits that it can have on a community. So I'm anxious to learn more about what our neighbors are doing and feel like the tools that they have put in place have been very valuable to them, and apply them appropriately to what we're doing in Madison County.
So we now invite each of our panel guests to share their main message to a citizen of their county who may be watching tonight's panel.
Yeah, so I think one of the important parts about the growth in Athens-Clarke County that we're focusing on at the government level is that the infrastructure, I mentioned it before, and this is something a lot of citizens don't really realize, is that we can't grow without the infrastructure, and if we extend that infrastructure further and further, it gets costlier and costlier. So in Athens-Clarke County, we're being very serious about where that can grow to and how much that could handle. So in terms of capacity, we're talking about it in terms of a land use budget. A lot of times that means bringing more intensity to the interior of the city, and whether that's through density, through increased commercial activity, through limitations on things like parking lots, which are a big part of the focus in the world of urban planning these days. Those are the things we're focusing on so that we can put the people together in a compatible type fashion.
So I guess my message would be that while the council has, and myself, we've taken an approach where we're open to growth and development, but we're firmly committed to the new growth needs to pay for itself. I don't think it's fair for existing citizens to pay for the new growth. So any new services we provide or impacts, we do make the developers pay for that. They have to extend the utility lines and donate them to the city.
In terms of anybody watching that is in Jackson County or is thinking about moving there and putting their kids in Jackson County schools, I say that we're working really hard to make it the best place for all of our students and provide those opportunities for every student, whether that's a pre-K student or a 12th grade student, and the commitment that is being made by our Board of Education and our leaders to make sure that we get it right for the future, the students, and to leave it better than where we found it, which was in a good place, and just to continue to improve. We're committed to that, and it's a great responsibility. It's something we don't take lightly, and it's something that we're working really hard to get right.
So my message to my fellow citizens of Oconee County is to take advantage of the opportunities to get involved in Oconee County. Through the county, we have numerous citizens advisory committees and opportunities for people to get involved, whether their interest is in parks and recreations or animals or just whatever. So that's very important to get the citizens' input, is get their involvement.
To all the citizens of Madison County, not just those in my district, I would ask you to be patient. We're 5 commissioners that are absolutely committed to doing our best to make the decisions that are going to be best for Madison County for 25 and 50 years. As we do those, we realize change is tough. Change is difficult for any of us to accept, and our desire is for Madison County to be the place where you want to live. And I realize that whenever one person moves in, they want us to build the wall right behind them. No wall under construction. But we still want Madison County to be the place where you want to live, work, worship, play, get your education.
Thank you to each of our panel guests for your time as work continues to accommodate for population growth in each of your counties. And thank you as viewers for joining us tonight as we continue our solution journalism coverage. For Grady Newsource, I'm Sailor Betts. Have a great night.
Do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments,
people will not hear you. So I would like to welcome our viewers. For the first time, we are now resuming our live show critiques that maybe a lot of you who've been watching Grady Newsource for a few years were used to. We had our newsroom under construction for, excuse me, for a long time, so we had to interrupt that tradition that we had, and it happens on live air. We have a special guest, Michael Davis with the Solutions Journalism Network, who watched a very special, I have to get some water, sorry guys. Yeah. I'll give it a, so we have a very special show. Hopefully I got my voice back. I guess I'm so excited. We're trying a new format, which is bringing together representatives from different counties and asking them to talk and reflect about one issue that we have found from our counties around here, from Athens and the surrounding counties, that is really important to people, and they want to hear from their representatives. So my students, they were wonderful. They cover all these beats. They came up with one issue which went across counties, and that was population growth. And so we decided to do a discussion, a constructive dialogue amongst all these representatives, which to our surprise we found that they'd never met before until they came here and sat at that table and started discussing. And as you heard, they found out that they had a lot in common, even though they didn't think that they did. So as I mentioned, we have a special guest of honor from the Solutions Journalism Network, because this is a show which is trying to develop this concept of solutions journalism, a different kind of journalism that covers problems, but also the solutions to those problems. So we asked him to watch our first experimental show and tell us what he thought about it and how we can further develop this concept of more constructive political dialogue. So I will hand it over to Michael Davis for your thoughts on how we did with this experiment.
Thank you. I want to see a show of hands. How many people think that that was 30 minutes of quality television for your viewers?
I'm biased, but I did think it was quality.
It was. It was very valuable television. And, you know, what it reminded me of is something that I preach all the time, and that is we in journalism have a superpower, and the superpower is the ability to convene. We can bring people together, and you did that really well. You know, you brought people together, as Relisa just said, who never had the opportunity to learn from each other and talk with each other. And on that basis alone, the half hour was a big success. We need to do more of it. We need to bring people together to have constructive conversation. Wasn't it so such a relief that there was no arguing, no back and forth, that it got away from that debate style that has gotten so stale. And instead, you know, Sailor, with your questions, you drew out from them insights and reflections about how these various counties are addressing growth. I thought that there were a lot of really great quotes that kind of jumped out, but I wanted to hear from you. If it was your job tonight to write a story about this broadcast, what do you think the lead would be? What would the lead
be?
Lead
be if you were to write a story? Anybody? What would be the most important? Oh, Lindsay is writing a website story about it. So what's your lead, Lindsay? Is it on Saturday? Can we ask the control room? Control room.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
A story.
There. Check 1, 2, test. Oh, baby, look.
All right. Oh, that one turned.
Michael, can you hear Lindsay?
A little bit. You may have to amplify it for me.
He can barely hear. Can we?
Here, Lindsay, hit it. Let's hear it.
Can you hear her now?
No.
No. Okay, so I will come. I will be your microphone.
There you go.
I will be her microphone.
Okay. So I did
Well,
write a story, a website story about the broadcast itself. It wasn't too much of a conclusion, but I thought the overarching theme that we concluded at the end is, despite all of the county's vast differences in population, demographic, land distribution, everything like that, they all looked at each other and were like, I didn't realize that we had all of these really similar issues, if not the same issues, within our counties. And I think that was the most important conclusion that they came to, because not only had they never met, but they didn't realize that despite the difference between Madison County and Athens-Clarke, or Madison County and Barrow County, they have the same problems associated with population growth, and that it's a regional issue. It's not something that's specific to their county alone. It's not really a problem that they're facing themselves. So that was how I concluded my story. And I just kind of just gave a overview of what an important notion from each representative. So
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. So what I think happened over the course of the 30 minutes was it kind of gave you a map or a blueprint of future solution stories that you can do. I loved what they had to say about the attitude of people who move in. It's like they want to shut the door behind them, right? So how do counties deal with this? This kind of attitude that people have, that they want a piece of it, but they don't want it to expand so that their little piece of paradise gets compromised. Has any county ever kind of come up with a solution for that? I love the whole aspect of looking ahead 25 and 50 years. Now that could be a solution story. If you look out into your state or a contiguous state and say, who's really developed and perfected the 25-year plan, and how does it work? And how do you develop it? How do you keep expanding it as things change? I mean, that would be a great solution story for all of you to pursue. There were some other ideas that became very clear to me as we went through, and I thought that there were possibilities there with education, right? How do you anticipate the future needs of a community, the kind of schools that you will need to address this growth? How do you do that? How do you, as it was said very late in the broadcast, we can't have growth without growth sort of paying for itself. Wow, well, how does that done? Has anyone ever successfully pulled that off, either in Georgia or someplace else? So when you go back and you rewatch the recording of the session, I think that what you're going to find is Saylor's questions and prompts kind of created this almost like a story list for you to follow down the road on this important topic of population growth, not only for this year, but maybe for next year as well, for future students as well. You've really broken a lot of ground with this broadcast, I think. All right, now I have a question for you. How did the reality of tonight's broadcast, the way that it rolled out, compare to the ideas that you previously had when you were first brainstorming this different night for your broadcast? How did those early thoughts compare to what actually happened?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, yeah. So whenever you were here a few weeks ago, I know we talked about kind of pushing the boundaries and creating an idea of like we know has gone too far, right? So like this idea of having the representatives like in a graveyard, but like pulling the idea back from there. And I thought that I wanted to create more of a conversational environment for them. Because the newsroom can seem kind of stuffy. There's a lot of bright lights. There's all these people sitting around staring at them having this conversation. But I think it ended up being better that way because we were kind of in our environment. And we were, number one, had we traveled to a different venue, I'm not sure we would have had time to edit our footage before it was due. But I think that the representatives probably felt a little more comfortable in the setting that they were in and more of like a panel setting that they're used to because they are politicians. And keeping them kind of in their comfort zone, I think maybe brought out some more good answers in them and kind of prompted them to give kind of the answers, not that they thought that we wanted to hear, but that were true to them.
I agree with you. And I think, again, if you look back at the broadcast, look at the recording, look at their body language, I think they were all comfortable and comfortable with each other. At first, I worried that, it was so horizontal that it might be stifling. But I don't think that happened at all. I think that if you look at their body language and how patient they were and how in the moment they were, I think you arrived at maybe the best solution. But what I want to know is, was the process of imagining something different a worthy endeavor? Are you glad you went through that process?
Okay, yeah. So just to clarify your question, am I glad that, can you say that just in
Yeah,
way?
I probably didn't ask it very well.
Yeah.
Was, at the very beginning, when I was with you a few weeks ago, you were trying on all kinds of ideas, right? Are you glad you did that? Did it have any benefit?
Because I was trying to coordinate with the tech team so early, we were talking about the way that the audio was going to work had we been at venue XYZ, or the way that we're going to be able to set up the cameras. And that made me think ahead of time, like, oh, we're going to have 3 cameras, we're going to have 3 SD cards, we're going to have to download all of that footage onto everyone's computer. Like, it made me think about the technical aspects of the show more, just because I was like trying to go in a completely different direction. And I think the way that we did it made the tech team a little more at ease, because we were at home kind of in our own environment. But it definitely made me think about all of those aspects beforehand, and then more so on what it would take to get the editing done and how we would break that up and adjust it and delegate the different blocks to different people.
So, Relitza, doesn't that sound like the real world, what producers do? They think about how to do it differently and how could we create a fresh broadcast, but you're always having to be mindful of the technical aspects, lighting, sound, just how do we get equipment around? It's always a balance, right?
Yeah, and that is really important in addition to the editorial. If you don't get the audio correctly so that people can listen to it, if you don't get people seated in the right way and make them even comfortable with each other, all these things, there's thought that goes into making a show feasible. And how would we organize it? How we have different blocks, what would be the main topics, how we worked also with Sailor, our anchor, and we brainstormed whether we should be going to breaks, should we have a show with breaks, because we'd never done a show like that. We always did the news, and that's a very different kind of show. So how would we break up this discussion and keep it interesting and keep it going? And so the decision was to open up with a general question and then go in deeper with both the issues, one block about citizens' issues and one block about the benefits, because what we were looking for is to see if we could find the balance between the benefits and limitations of population growth and economic growth. And then wrap it up at the end. We were curious to find out if they would have some meeting of the minds or any surprises, or if we could move them forward in the solution process. So that was the whole idea. But again, as you said, we had to get the technical issues straightened out because, as you saw, I was coughing in the beginning. Things happen, right? Or the mic is not working, so you have to find a solution and bring your own mic to your student. Yeah. And so all these things matter. They can be distracting also. I was mentioning that to Aiden that we needed, looking at it 2020, we needed to have what we call lower thirds, the names of those participants.
Yes.
We needed to have them constantly in every block, and we had to sort of keep them on longer because people will forget many representatives, and so these are little things that are technical, but they're really important to improve people's comprehension of the discussion.
Yeah, the supers would have really helped me keep things straight, the who's who, absolutely. But from the standpoint of the way that you structured the broadcast, I found it to be great benefit that there was a theme to Block A, Block B, Block C. For me, that was, helpful because I knew what we would be talking about and what I should be listening for. So I applaud that. What did you gain from the 3 cameras, from having the 3 cameras? Then I'll tell you what I think.
I know I'm going to pass the microphone here in a second, but I know that it was really important to have Saylor, just a camera on Saylor, because she was doing a lot of talking, a lot of question asking, and we would need that camera on her to tease to breaks. And then the wide shot would just give variety, and then we had the lovely Mr. Jim Black, who was running our tight shot cameras, just so we could get close-ups of their answers. So I think that it gave variety to the show instead of just like one wide shot, and I thought it was really helpful and useful and made it the show more visually appealing.
Honestly, I just think it kept it interesting. Obviously, the information and everything they were saying was very interesting, but like if we just had the shot of all of them together on a panel, it wouldn't have kept us thinking about it as much, and the fact that the angles were changing made it way more interesting in my opinion, and kept you involved in watching it. And then
I think it was really important that we had the different camera angles, because if we didn't, I think it would have felt like we were watching a county commissioner meeting recording.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of, is like without the changing shots and like the close-ups, we wouldn't have felt the same kind of emotion or understood their points as much coming from them. Like they all had their own specific ways of talking and about the issues and going about it, and you could tell that they were interested in caring about their community, and I think if we just had a wide shot, we wouldn't have had any of that come from it. So.
Yeah, it would have looked like local access television of a county commission board. Yes, you got it exactly right, but it didn't feel that way, and there was an energy to it, and there was a movement to it. So, if we could wave a magic wand, and add some time to the broadcast, what kind of graphics would you consider adding? Given the topic, what kind of graphics could you add?
I mean, just from my standpoint, having that kind of live interactive feedback with them, this could have been an hour-long show with all of the insight that we got from these representatives. Yep. I think it would have been a cool opportunity, especially with the editors, because that's kind of how they built the show around the major quotes from each representative. If we had some kind of like a Coney County colon, and then their soundbite that really was like honing their 1 point home, that could kind of act as another point of compare and contrast between these points of insight that these representatives are bringing to the table, and that allows the audience to kind of see, in summary, where are they finding that validation in terms of commonality with the civilian concerns that they're receiving.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Yep. Anybody else? What would you show in a graphic if you could?
Yeah, so I thought about, which obviously we didn't know exactly what points they were going to make, so it would have been nice to have some graphics with statistics to kind of show people like they're bringing up this topic, or they're bringing up like density of urban areas, and maybe even having like a map of their county and showing like, here's the urban area and here are the rural areas around it, and maybe some kind of graphic that really highlighted what areas were the population with the densest population.
Yep.
I think those would have been nice.
Very good. I agree. Would it have been possible to have a small audience with questions? I think the answer is not in 30 minutes, right?
Well, we just moved into a new newsroom, and this is the first time we've actually done something like that. So we were trying to keep it simple and make a start with this kind of constructive discussion. But I think moving forward, there could be an audience from the residents of these counties who could ask them questions. And that would make it maybe an hour-long show, but it would really have both sides of the story here. But we just started in a simple way to see how this would come together. And I love your suggestions for graphics. There could have been quotes from residents about what they were worried about, and statistics and a map which shows Athens with regards to all the counties around Athens, to give people a visual idea, because they were referencing the facts that what was happening in Athens was influencing what's happening in Barrow. So that you see the interconnection between them and how what happens in one county influences another. So now we have the benefit of 2020, and we can build on that, or I can build on that with my future students.
Yeah. You've created a foundation here, and it's a solid foundation. And I would really love to see you continue this experiment. It's, I'm going to say it again, it's blessed relief for television viewers of news to not have to put up with the contentious, tension. I still believe that you can have engaging, quality, informative television where people are talking in a normal tone of voice and responding to good questions. And I think that you did that, and it's all to your credit. And and again, I think you will find that if you watch the broadcast and kind of break it down, you're going to discover that there are all kinds of leads for stories that were within the conversation. They gave you lots of hints of ways to look out into the world and say, was anybody doing this? And if so, to what degree? How well are they doing this? So, I love the question about the restaurant scene in Athens and what's behind that. I love the quote about quality of life, because quality of life is a very subjective thing. And, some night you might go out into the communities and say, just simply ask people, what, in your view, is quality of life? What is the quality of life you sought when you moved here? And is it any different from what you had hoped you would find when you moved into this particular county?
Michael, unfortunately, we have 1.5 minutes left till this live critique has to end. Since we're live on air, we have something else at the top of the hour. But just you have 1 minute to wrap up your thoughts, and we really appreciate all the wonderful ideas that you gave us.
Okay, well, I'm so proud of all of you for being brave enough to try something new and to break the mold and to give your viewers, who are very fortunate, by the way, something to think about. I think that the participants would say that they gained from it. they were, if you were to ask them, they probably were very happy that you invited them in for this. And there was a lot to be gained from it. So thank you very much for inviting me in. And then I want you to invite me again if you want me.
Oh, yes, you
talk
consider
about it.
yourself invited.
All right,
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Great work.
And thanks to our viewers for joining us again for live. We'll keep them going with the new students. And I'm glad you guys got to one live critique and we moved into the new newsroom.